Okay, so always same people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs will be analyzed today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video, as I do have a bonus pair in store. But yeah, guys, as always, I'll take a look at my positions for the week and then progress into the analysis shortly after. If there is a particular pair you do want to see my analysis too, feel free to skip ahead using the timestamps below. But I had one position this week on pound USD, exited for a 1R win. Was looking to get short on one of the dollar pairs this week, mainly Euro USD or pound USD. I'm still waiting for Aussie dollar and New Zealand dollar to shape up, which we'll get into in a moment. But I did manage to get short on pound. Let me go to different, there we go. So this is the setup I had on Tuesday. Price had a nice pullback, essentially looking to try and catch that next lower high because price created the high over there, lower low, lower high, lower low. So again, just looking for that simple market structure continuation. Another lower high as long as we don't break structure up here. Price started to stall and find resistance around this area, which was price support, which added to the confidence of the trade. Then I saw price was moving quite correctly on the hourly chart, so things were looking good. They had a nice break out of that channel, nice shift of momentum, got into the trade on that candle close, and then did see some nice continuation in my direction. Trailed my stop loss to around here, then was taken out for a 1 hour profit. So happy with that trade. Maybe I could have been a bit looser, if that's the correct term, with the trail stop loss. But then again, the conditions aren't particularly great with the dollar pairs. I don't want to be trying to stay in the trade for too long because the market is fluctuating quite a lot. So yeah, it's not a trade which I would try and push too far if I'm not seeing really strong momentum in my direction. So yeah, happy with that trade. Nothing else quite shaped up this week. Had a few pairs I was looking at, but the markets are quite slow at the moment. We'll take a look at the DXY as always. So DXY, I'm still very bullish on this one. Still expecting more upside. I've been talking about dollar bullishness for a while. These are my two major targets, 106,400 and 107,100. We're almost at the first target there. We are quite corrective, so it's not the cleanest trend in the world. You can see the way we're moving in this channel here. You know, typically these channels, they don't continue for too long because it's a representation of tied price. But as long as we don't break out of this low here, this is our previous swing low, which gave us our high. So this is our swing low. If market breaks that, then we break structure. So as long as we don't break through that low, I'm looking for buys for dollar and sells for dollar crosses. So yeah, at the moment we're holding on some nice resistance and support, which we keep stalling at. So potentially we could see price use this as support on Monday and continue higher, or we might have a deeper pullback. We test some structure around here with support there as well. Could see another test before we push up. But those are the two areas I'm looking at for the dollar to push higher. If we do go and break through, like I said, I'll probably scrap that that bullish bias and maybe start thinking bearish setups. It really does depend how we break structure and how things form. Of course, I'll keep you guys up to date on my stream, so make sure you're there. But for now, this is what I'm looking at for bullish setups on the dollar. So if you take that information into Euro USD, which was another pair I was looking at closely this week, but I wasn't a big fan of the price action, since we were pretty much just consolidating, as we can see over here. Market just moving sideways, not really the conditions I want to see. I want to see price free flowing, trend direction. So I'm still hoping for a breakout coming into the new week, and hopefully we can be looking at some retests on that level of support, which of course will now be resistance. So the price action for me is pretty straightforward in terms of the market structure. We're seeing lower lows and lower highs in general. So I'm looking to continue that direction. Of course, dollar's doing the exact opposite. So everything is pretty much in synchronicity. So I'm looking to continue that that correlation between the two. And just like dollar, I'm expecting major targets to be hit on the daily chart. Likewise with Euro USD as well. I'm looking for us to come all the way back over there eventually, but we do have that first low here, which of course will be the first major target. But again, on the daily chart, we do have this downwards trend, which I'm simply just looking to continue and just catch the pullbacks of. So Euro USD to me looks pretty clear. Conditions aren't that great, but it's tradable. So hopefully we can see a nice breakout. More momentum, the better. Then I can plot some entries on a retest of this area. If you're looking to trade within the range, then be my guest. It's not really a trade I'm looking for myself. I'm looking for breaking retests, breakouts. So that's what I'll be interested in, something like this. But if you want to buy at support and sell at resistance, as long as the market keeps respecting that range, you will see bounces. But for me, I'm waiting for direction. Hopefully we can get a breakout next week. And look for some pullbacks into 1.06774. We can trade it back into that low. If you're feeling a bit braver, there's the low down there. But I think for next week, we should look at 1.06 as our next target. So that's the plan for Euro USD. Okay, so over to USD JPY. So for this pair, I'm still very bullish on. We've taken out the wick high here and the market has gone beyond that. Again, looking at the monthly chart, the weekly chart, the daily chart, the major time frames, everything is pointing up. So I'm never going to be looking to sell in these conditions, especially as a swing trader as well. Of course, intraday, you might be able to take advantage of some downside, but you don't want to be in there for too long because the chances are we're still going to see higher prices. So going into next week, that is still the theme at play, the idea at play, looking for pullbacks and more upside. I like the resistance here on the 4 hour, brief resistance, nice big breakthrough with a lot of momentum. Never came back for the retest, so for me this is still a relatively fresh level of support. We do have some lows here which traders will be getting involved in, so potentially we could see a deeper pullback, take some out of those positions who got into the trade a little bit early, and then possibly see a bounce from there to continue to the upside. Again, the market is quite stretched, so not necessarily looking for crazy moves for dollar yen, but because there's still a lot of momentum, we're still looking to ride that unless something crazy happens next week, which we could see Bank of Japan intervene and maybe a big pushback down. Of course, if that happens, we adjust and go from there. But for now, conditions are still bullish. So I'll still be looking at buying opportunities, just looking to take it back into the swing high. Last week I was discussing some areas back down here for retest, also this high here as well, but we're just very far away from that. I'm not too sure we'll see a move all the way back down there within the week. Of course, if we do, keep an eye on that area, but I think more realistically we'll probably will see a retest of this area here, and if things look good, see some nice rejection, that for me is a smart place for some continuation back to the high at 161.200. And maybe some new highs as well. But yeah, still very bullish for me. Maybe we do see a big retracement come next week. We readapt, see what happens. Maybe we will be looking at these areas. So keep an eye on 158.300 and 157.500. But for now, just looking at some smaller retracement, retest some structure, and expecting some new highs next week as well. Okay, so on to USD CAD. So I'm really not a fan of the price action. This to me looks like a big range, and inside of that range, I don't really want to touch price. Again, I'm looking for direction, looking for momentum, not seeing that at all really with USD CAD. I mean, on the high time frames, yes, there's some type of direction, which is why I'm looking for a push back to the high there, but it's been difficult to find entries to trade that, especially inside of this mess here. We're kind of still bouncing onto the trend line, so I suppose if you're just focusing purely on trend line, then buying at that area could make a lot of sense for me. I do like trend line confluences, but support resistance, horizontal support resistance is the most important confluence for me. So if I'm not really seeing solid levels to buy from, I wouldn't just buy from a trend line. If there's a trend line there which aligns with a good level of support resistance, fantastic. But I wouldn't buy off a trend line by itself. So if you're looking at that, there is some sense behind that. You're expecting the trend line to hold until it doesn't, basically. So I can understand looking to buy in these areas. But truthfully, what I'm waiting for is price to break out this range. And what would be a nice opportunity is if we can actually break this support level, break the low of the range, and break the trend line as well. And I do think the shorts after that will look a lot better, a lot more attractive, make a lot more sense. And hopefully we have a lot more momentum to trade with as well. So I know I've been talking about I'm still bullish on the USD. I'm still expecting dollar to see high prices. And if that's the case, USD CAD probably will get back to the high up here. But I'm just not seeing an opportunity to actually trade that bias. And what I am seeing is if I am wrong with that dollar bias and we do bleed to the downside, I actually really like the shorts here for dollar CAD because we're kind of breaking through all those confluences, out of the range, out of the trend line, and that will leave behind some really nice shorts. So this is kind of what I'm personally eyeing up for USD CAD. I'm not really seeing buying opportunities here of good quality. Other dollar pairs look better. USD CAD, I don't really want to trade inside of that. So this is what I'm looking for USD CAD. It's a lot to ask for, big breakout, but it's the only way I'm going to find a good trade. If you're looking to trade on the trend line and still anticipating higher prices, I can get I can understand that, it's just it doesn't fit the plan, so nothing will interest me inside of that area until we get a good breakout, and then I can be looking for some retest on the area and expect a lot more downside. So keep an eye on the break. We tested 1.36. It's a long way away, but it's the only thing that does interest me. If you're looking at the trend line, then keep an eye on that area, but I'll be waiting for the breakout before I get some positions. Okay, so over to Euro Pound. So Euro Pound, the bearish buy still stands. Looking for more downside. I'm looking for a retest of 0.85 first, and hopefully some continuation after that. As we can see, really powerful level of support, big rejections from this area. Since then, big strong breakout to the downside, so naturally looking for the retest of that same zone for the continuation. And also just above us, we've got a big gap in the market as well, as we can see from a couple of weeks back, which still hasn't been completely filled yet. So I still do expect us to correctively push up, which is what we've been doing. Go test 0.85 if things look good. This could be a really smart place for a short, and possibly some continuations back to the swing low. Of course, that'll be a bit optimistic, but that possibility is there. We can be looking at some closer targets, support around here, support definitely around there. Those can make up for some healthy targets as well, or at least places to manage your trade, bank partials, trade or stop loss. That'll be up to you guys. But in terms of a location for an entry in the direction, I will be focused on more downside for Euro Pound. I do like the fact that we still got that gap just above us, which means price is likely to fill that area. And then we've got that big level of resistance just above us, which if we do see sufficient price action, rejection, nice shift in momentum, that could be a really nice place for an entry to take it back down to the lows here. So I am bearish on Euro Pound. Overall, there is a slight downtrend at play, so I do think there's a good chance we get back to the lows there. But Euro Pound is quite a choppy pair. It might mean that we test that level and we consolidate as well. So take that with a pinch of salt, but I do expect to see some type of reaction when we get to 0.85, which is also a really nice psychological level as well, giving us another confidence on why the market can react with that area. So keep a close eye on this level here. Hopefully we can get there next week. I do expect this gap to fill, so maybe you can be looking at some short-term buys to set it back down later. I'll rather just be focused on the sales at that level. But yeah, I do think there's some nice opportunities coming up for Euro Pound, so keep an eye on 0.85 for next week. Okay, so over to Aussie dollar. So it's a similar situation as with USD CAD in terms of we've got a big ranging market here. I don't want to place or look for any trades inside that area until we get a breakout, and then I'll be interested with finding some trading opportunities and some continuations. Hopefully we get a nice breakout of this support level. I'll look for a retest and then look to plot my entries on the back of that. With Aussie dollar, I like the idea of more downside and price breaking lower. I could be completely wrong. But I'm looking at the higher time frames here, consistent with the lower highs. So for me, probability does still lie with the bears. If you do break to the upside, then I will look to trade it back to the high here. So in all honesty, I don't really mind which way you break, up or down, because I'm seeing good targets both to the upside and to the downside. I'd rather it break down because there's still that natural confluence of that downwards trend. So for me, there's a greater possibility of getting some cleaner shorts to the downside, and we can go a lot further as well. But if it does break to the upside and we see a healthy breakout, a healthy retest, I'll still look to trade it because I think there's a good chance we can get back to the highs over there around 0.68600. Likewise to the downside, back to the lows here at 0.63900. So the plan for Aussie dollar is just wait for the breakout, up or down. We can look to take it in both directions. I'm naturally bullish on the dollar, so I would anticipate price breaking lower, but we'll wait and see. No need to try and anticipate anything. Because I'm going to wait for the breakout anyway. So the plan is to wait for price to show us the direction, and then we find our opportunities afterwards. This is what I'm looking at for Aussie dollar. Hopefully we can see the breakout next week, because it's been going on for quite a while now, and yeah, it's not been fun. So hopefully we can get the breakout. Keep an eye on 0.658 for a break to the downside, 0.67 for a break to the upside, and hopefully we can get some opportunities next week. Okay, so next up we've got NZD CAD. So NZD CAD, I'm looking for more downside this going into next week. We did see some downside this week, which I do like. Really breaking structure to the downside. I would have liked if the break was a bit more impulsive, but we did see a confident break of that low. This was a swing low which gave us this high. So as I was touching upon last week, we had this bullish ascending channel. The market's broken through that. So now I'm expecting more downside. I'm looking for that next, or the first lower high, because we were creating higher highs on our way up here. Now the market's broken structure. Now I'm looking for that first lower high in comparison to the high up there for some continuation. And where I'm looking at it developing from is the retest of this low, support, then turn resistance. So what I'm looking for next week is a pullback to retest that area, a lower high to form, and some more downside. Looking on the daily chart, I'm liking the level all the way down here as a potential target. Now this is kind of where I do see buyers stepping back into the market. I'm looking at these major levels of support, one over there, another one over there, higher lows. This potentially could be a region where the market forms a third before pushing back up again. So this is where I do see price coming towards. Of course, we don't have to necessarily short it all the way back over there to make a good trade. Even a push back down to the prior low here. Let's say we get an entry on a retest of this level, stop loss above the high, trade it back to the low, still looking at 1 to 3, 1 to 2, 1 to 4, depending on the entry to that area. So for me, that makes for a good target, but we'll see how far we can push it. I'll be having a trading stop loss, so I'll be open to the possibility of a push to that low if things look good, but even a swing to that low makes a lot of sense. So yeah, NZD CAD, now that we've fully broken away from that ascending channel, looking for that first lower high for some continuations next week. Okay, so up next we've got Pound NZD. So Pound NZD for me looks like it's slowly coming into play. I've been talking about this descending channel similar to the NZD CAD example we just looked at, where NZD CAD is really broken out that channel. Pound NZD hasn't really done that to that extent yet. We had a bit of a break to the upside, but it looks like a bit of a fake out there. But I do think price is getting ready for a big break higher. Normally when we are moving in this descending channel, we normally do expect a big break in the opposite direction. And the fact is price is still respecting support pretty well there. So I do think there's a good chance we do see that break to the upside. I've been looking at this break for the past 2-3 weeks now, and I think it's imminent. So hopefully we do see it next week. And then yeah, I'll be looking at some pullbacks, some retests to take this higher, maybe a retest of this high. That could be a really nice place to look for some entries, depending on the pullback, depending on how price reacts with it. But what I am looking for on the daily chart is some more upside. I'm looking at this bullish structure here, low, high, low, high. Looking for the next higher low, for the next higher high, or at least a push back into the price swing high around 2.12. So the buys make sense according to the higher time frames as well. Just need to see evidence that we are breaking to the upside, which is what I'm still waiting for. So hopefully we can see that next week. Look for some retests from this area around 2.085. It's proven resistance once, twice again. So it looks like if you can see a solid break of that, a retest, hopefully it can act as support. And then potentially you can take it all the way back to the high there if you're feeling brave. But of course there probably will be some more relative targets as we see price develop. Let's say if we see a strong break here and we get a pullback, push back to the high can make a lot of sense for a target. Of course we'll make adjustments as more price action prints as we see what happens during the week, but generally speaking that is the direction and the setup we're looking to take advantage of next week. So keep an eye on the break and retest of 2.08 for Pound NZD next week. Okay, so over to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen, another yen pair which flew to the upside and managed to take out this big wick. So everything is still really bullish to me for CAD Yen, still seeing higher highs and higher lows, daily chart, weekly chart, and the monthly chart still looking very bullish. Strong close there to the upside as well. And I think, yeah, we're going to get the close of the monthly chart as well this week. So everything is looking bullish. So only interested in buying opportunities and some pullbacks. So hopefully we can see that happen next week. The only level that looks good to me at the moment, at least on the 4 hour, is this level here at 115,500. So I'm asking for a decent pullback for CAD JPY. So it's a pretty far away where we're looking for that pullback from. But given the context of the market, these big bearish swings, I do think we can see something of that nature. Especially maybe if we see Bank of Japan intervene, we see a big strong move down. Possibly we could be trading at 115,500 sooner than we think. So For me, the higher lows are still intact, so that's what I'm essentially looking to try and catch the next higher low. After that, a retest of the high looks good. We broke through with a lot of momentum, never had a retest. So to me, this is still fresh level of support. Depending how we get there, depending how we react, could be a nice place for an entry. And again, let's take it back to the high. If you do pull back from here, that becomes a new high. That then becomes a really solid target to have going forward. So CAD JPY, as long as we maintain this bullish structure, don't break any lows, I'm still looking at buys, still looking at new highs next week. So keep an eye on 115, 600, 500 as a smart place for a buy. And let's see if we can get some entries next week for CAD Gen. So keep an eye on 115, 500. Okay, so for pound USD, so I'm still looking at similar trade opportunity as I was talking about last week as this week. So this is where I found my trade. I'm looking to see maybe if we can get there again. We're moving a little bit sideways, firing wicks to the upside, to the downside. So I'm not a big fan of the price action here as we develop. So maybe if we can see another push higher, retest that same area. As long as we don't break structure, really is the key thing for me for pound USD. This is our last swing low over here, which gave us, swing high, sorry, which gave us a swing low. So as long as price respects that area, that resistance level, I think that is a really smart place for a short. To again anticipate some more downside, a push back to the low, maybe further as well. I do expect pound USD to keep falling, especially if dollar keeps rising. I do think we'll see price fall eventually to this level of support around 1.25300, solid resistance above us. Price has been fluctuating between those two levels. So since we've had a really strong rejection of the high, I do think there's a good chance we're just going to come back to test the low, and we'll see what happens from there. Maybe we break through or we respect it. We'll find out when we get there. But for now, I'm just looking at some more downside as we've left behind this kind of bullish ascending channel. If I drop to the 4 hour, you see it a little bit better. As we can see, broken out of that. So as long as we maintain that bearish structure, I think we've got a lot more room to the downside. So keeping a close eye on 1.269, 1.27, where I found the entry loss this week. This is where I'm looking for another entry, hopefully next week. And then, yeah, stop loss above the high and see if we can take it at least back to the low there at 1.261, and maybe for lucky 1.25390 as well. So that's the plan next week for pound USD. Okay, so over to pound CAD. So pound CAD, I'm looking at buy still. Again, looking at the bigger picture here. If I go to the daily chart, market's still really bullish, still seeing higher highs and higher lows. If I point them out, higher low, higher low, higher low. Again, looking at that next one, I was originally talking about a retest of this level here on the daily chart. It looks like price is actually slightly breaking through that. You can see with solid resistance over there, twice over there, support. Looks like price is actually trading underneath it and actually using it as resistance. If we go to the 4 hour, see it a bit better, respecting as resistance, support there, now turn resistance. So the buys were never really looking good last week, this week as well, because we were rejecting this level as resistance. However, I was talking about this area here as a second place we can come to, which at the moment looks pretty likely. Looks like we will see probably some continuation, and we can see what we can do at this 1.72400 level. Things look good, nice wicks, nice rejection. This could be a smart place for a buy, possibly a swing all the way back to the high over there. It has the potential for that move, for that swing. If we are going to see another higher low on the daily chart, of course, you would expect another swing high. So there is a lot of upside potential, but nonetheless, you can play it safe. Targets back to this area makes a lot of sense. This is where price found a lot of resistance. So if you do get an entry, retesting this area, 1.72300, a buy back to that area makes a lot of sense. Maybe if you're trying to push it a little bit further, maybe that area never came back for a retest, so maybe we do on the next move up. So there is that possibility, but I think a smart decision is just to keep it simple, back to that low there, turn resistance, and send it back to where it came from. So pound CAD, just generally looking for buys because that is still the overall direction of the market. Again, on the higher time frames as well. So looking for upside, strong level here. Hopefully you can see some nice rejection. Good place for an entry, stop loss below, and take it back to 1.733 for next week. Okay, so over to pound yen. So pound yen still bullish, as we saw with the other yen pairs, still pushing hard to the upside, weekly chart, monthly chart. You can see how bullish price is. So still generally looking for buys, even though the market is a little bit corrective. So I do think a pullback is is imminent. I do think we will see a pullback pretty soon. I'm looking at this trend line here. In fact, we can even drag it even further down and connect it to this low here as well. You can see we are respecting the trend line pretty well. 1, 2, 3 over there. I do think we can see another test. This is the price swing high. Dragging that across will become support. This is a really nice area of confluence, so hopefully we can come back and retest that area. See the next higher low, retesting that trend line, retesting that resistance turn support, and a swing back to the high, because again, we're at some heights which we haven't been for a while, so it's not necessarily I'm targeting a specific price point right now. With pound yen, just kind of looking at the swing high. If we do pull back from there, that of course will be our swing high, and then of course looking to trade it back to that same area will make a lot more sense. And potentially you might see higher prices than that, so you might want to keep maybe a small position to run. But in terms of the direction of pound yen, like I've touched on with the other yen pairs, only looking for buys, no reason to be looking for any big sell. I understand shorter term sell if you're looking to try and take advantage of the moment of a retracement, but in the bigger picture, monthly, weekly, daily, all the major time frames are pointing up, momentum's up. So definitely as a swing trader, that's the way I want to be trading. So hopefully you can see a pullback, retest 201.5, we'll call it. Yeah, 201.5. Hopefully you can see a retest of that area, grab some confidence, and hopefully a swing back to the high. And that will be the plan next week for pound yen. Okay, so over to gold. So gold, I've just been monitoring. I'm not really a big fan of the price action. As I've been speaking, I'm still really bullish on it. I do think there is a good chance we get back to the high, and I'm just waiting for a good chance for a buy. And what I mean by that is some bullish structure. I need to see some higher highs, some higher lows being printed, and then I'll look for a retest somewhere, and then I'll look to plot my buys. At the moment, we're still seeing lower highs, high over there, another lower high. Looks like price is trying to print one in there. Not quite confirmed yet because we haven't taken out the low, but we are still forming those highs. We're still seeing aggressive momentum to the downside. So for me, this isn't looking particularly great to be looking to buy just yet. I do think the fact that we've been so corrective and we've taken our time, and the fact that we're still respecting this swing low here on the left is a big sign that the market is probably just getting ready to turn and go bullish again. So I do like that that characteristic, but in terms of a nice trade, a nice place for an entry, I don't really have that yet. I don't really have a level which I'm looking to buy from. I've been saying a retest of this support is not a bad place for a buy, but I wouldn't be so optimistic that we're just going to fly to the moon here. So that could be a nice buy just to try and catch a bounce and catch a reaction. But I wouldn't look to try and buy and hold and anticipate a huge swing, because there is still a pretty strong chance we break through that area as well. But if we start forming some bullish structure, some higher highs, higher lows, take out some swing highs as well, then the bullish structure becomes visible, attractive to trade, and there's a good chance we'll probably see price continue and see a push back to the high, because there's still a lot of momentum in the higher time frames, particularly the weekly, monthly chart. You know, big candles driving us higher. I'm looking at this as a range, as a pause in that kind of bias, in that momentum, for the market to eventually continue that at some stage. So yeah, looking for some higher highs, higher lows. It might take a while for it to develop, but there are other markets which I'll be looking to trade, and then I'll look to find a break and retest somewhere, find an entry somewhere, and then take some buys. So yeah, if you're really looking to buy gold, I'll keep an eye on 22.83, 82. I think that's a solid support for a buy, but I'm not too sure if we're going to continue high or go break through. So it's more of just catching a bounce, catching a reaction from the level. If you're looking for more of a swing trade to try and get into some big buys, then I'll wait for some development with some bullish structure first. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at for gold going into next week. Okay, so over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was still moving in this descending channel here, and we've just seen a really nice sell-off, and price has pretty much, or almost at least, come back into the lower end of that channel. So I'm looking for buying opportunities down here for a big push to the upside. I do think now that we've seen another leg lower, this could be time to try and buy back price Bitcoin back up again, because I'm still looking at this as a big impulse. This is a correction of that impulse. I do think we'll find our feet and push higher. So what I want to see is evidence that the market is stalling here, wicks to the downside, rejection, big candlesticks, big bullish candlesticks closing to the upside. I want to see momentum shift. I want to see evidence that the market is really struggling here and likely to push up higher. Not quite seeing that yet because we're not quite there yet. So hopefully we can spill over to the downside one more time. And then we'll see what price does around this 57, 58K. And that could be a really nice place for a long-term buy. Possibly back to the high end of the channel, or possibly even trying to catch a big breakout if we will see one. So I do think this is a smart place for a buy. We'll see what price does when we get there. Still looking for a bit more downside, and then we can judge price action when we get there on the daily or the 4-hour chart. But yeah, I do think this is a smart place for a buy. So keep an eye out for some longs for Bitcoin next week. Okay, so over to Aussie CAD. So Aussie CAD, I'm looking for a big breakout to the downside. It's a similar setup as with Aussie dollar in terms of, okay, we've got a ranging market. I'm waiting for price to break to the downside. We've got a lovely level of support. Once we break through that, we'll be turn resistance, as we can see multiple tests of this same area. So I'm looking for price to break to the downside, and then I'm trying to plot some entries on the retest of that area. So it's the similar situation to Aussie dollar. And if I expand to the higher time frames, likewise with Aussie dollar, we do have some type of bearish trend here. I'm looking to see if maybe this will be the next lower high in this bearish sequence there. Potentially we could be seeing another one. So I do want to see price break lower. We've also got some nice Fibonacci confluence from that high to the low. Just about crept into the 0.618 there, as we can see. So Aussie CAD to me looks like a great place for a long-term sell. And if we do see a strong break of that range, we do have a lovely level of resistance just above us if we can get a retest of that same area. So Aussie CAD waiting on a break to the downside. Same with Aussie dollar. It's going to take some time because we're kind of closer to the upper end of the range than the lower end, but hopefully we can see a breakout next week and speed things up. We do have NFP, so I don't know, maybe that could speed things up, and then the following week we can get some entries. Or we might see some movement beforehand, who knows. But in terms of a solid setup, this looks good to me, and hopefully we can see a break and a retest to get some entries on the back of 0.90500. And in terms of targets, like I said, there is a lot of downside room. I wouldn't be so optimistic that I'm expecting us to get there in one big move. That would be nice, but I think in terms of realistic targets, push back to the high there makes a lot of sense. Even the low here as well, so keep an eye. 0.897, 0.89. I think that looks good in terms of targets and realistic targets as well. So that is the plan for Aussie CAD, which is the bonus pair for next week. And guys, that does bring us to the end of our analysis. If you have found it useful, please be sure to smash the like button, hit the subscribe button as well if you want to see more. And if you don't want to miss out on any uploads or streams, make sure you do hit the bell so you are notified whenever I do upload or do go live. But guys, thanks so much for watching the video. If you did enjoy it, let me know in the comments. Any pairs you're looking at next week, let me know in the comments as well. But guys, thanks again for watching. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all in the next one.